Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 225, Too Close to Call, recorded on Friday, November 18th, 2022. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Tyler Colt.
And I'm Josh Oliver. And before we get into the show, I'd like to remind everyone that the show is produced by Podcaster Zen. Link down in the description below.
Are you looking into starting a podcast? Or maybe just need some help putting it all together so you could focus on your voice telling your story? Introducing Podcaster Zen. From audio podcasts to video to live streaming a show, we do it all. Head over to podcasterzen.com for more info on how we can help you share your message with the world.
Alrighty, and so before we get on into the show here, obviously we do have a special guest with me here today, Josh Oliver, our VP of Operations. So Brett is actually down in Baja, right? It's Baja 500, Baja 100, something like that.
1000, yeah.
Baja 1000. Wow, I'm an order of magnitude off. So Josh volunteered to jump in and help out today. So thanks for joining, Josh.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. And with that, I guess we can jump right on into our announcements and events. Alrighty, so here come for upcoming events. We do have a couple of those Zoholics here, one for Colombia, Cindy, and New Zealand. A little later in the month, or actually looks like early December, they're doing a Zoho People Users Meetup. Looks like a couple of those in Bengaluru, Mumbai. And then a little later in December, it looks like they're doing a webinar here on advanced and new email functionalities within Zoho CRM. The one that isn't on here that will be shortly is actually going to be our third annual Zenmys Awards. We have not been cease and desisted on this the show title yet, so we're going to keep going with it. Make sure to jump over to the website and vote for your favorite Zoho applications. We're actually going to run through all of those and give out some rewards for the Zoho apps that everybody is loving. So jump over to the website, make sure to submit that and make your voice heard. And then keep a lookout for that. We'll actually be doing that live on Wednesday, December 28th. Should be a good time kind of recapping the year in Zoho as well as the Zenmys. And with that covered, let us jump right on into the news.
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so looks like first story here is a monthly roll-up here for Zoho Workplace, which is one of those products, Josh, that it's very similar to like Remotely, but it's a little bit different in what it contains. It's kind of like the Office Suite, Zoho Cliq, Zoho Show, and Connect. I think we've covered most of these, but any of these kind of stand out for you as you read through?
Well, there were a bunch of Zoho Writer updates. And actually, if you click on the Learn More there, there's quite a few actually inside of Writer that 8 helpful additions to Writer. So now you can do decision matrices inside of Writer, pulling in from Zoho Forms, which is a big one. Zoho Forms does offer a decision matrix, which is basically just a subform within Forms, and now that can write over into Zoho Writer. There's a few others down in here, so check and uncheck using conditions,
That's
merge
nice.
preferences.
Oh, getting
Uh,
rid of blank tables. That's a nice one. If you sometimes are merging into a table, but it might not all be
yep,
filled up with data, you can actually kind of squish the table back together.
yeah, get rid of all
Um,
that blank space.
yeah. Yeah, and the writer team, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but really each of these teams, writer, I mean, Cliq, obviously, Show, Connect, they just get tons and tons of updates really consistently. So if you are a Zoho user, even if you're not using Zoho Workplace, you might be on Zoho One, all these updates are going to apply to you. So be sure to check those out and see if it solves any problems that you're having.
In Zoho
Uh,
Workplace, that's just a bundle of apps, right? That's
yeah, I
not
think
an
it's like $6
actual,
a month. Yeah, it's a bundle of applications.
yeah,
Kind of like their version of like a G Suite, right? Where you kind of get a variety of different tools.
got it.
Looks like next year, keeping in our Office Suite theme, we've got a couple new Zoho Sheet functions. Again, they just add these so constantly. A couple up here at the top, we have 2 row and 2 call. Those are kind of our, obviously, the inspiration for our show title. These are interesting because once in a blue moon, you do need to turn something from a column to a row or vice versa. It's a bit of a pain in the butt to do it natively in Excel. They do use kind of funny examples here that I don't really know when someone would use this to kind of organize first and last names into a column. But just being able to easily do that is surely pretty nice. A couple other functions here as well, kind of some automated consolidation and summing, as well as the ability to just pull out a handful of rows using a function. We don't do too much in Zoho Sheet, so obviously these are kind of there if you need them, but they just sure do stay busy over there with really the entire Office suite of applications.
Yeah, pretty niche functions, I would say. But if you are in there and you have that need, it does exist. I don't
Yeah.
honestly see these within Excel. So some of these are pretty cool functions. One
Yeah.
thing I would love to see with Zoho Sheets is a standalone desktop application.
Mm,
That's the biggest reason why I use Excel is because it's native on my desktop and much easier to
that's
use. But
a lot faster too. If you're working with a big data set, Zoho Sheet can be a little brutal.
yeah, much faster. Yeah.
Alrighty. With that, we can go ahead and jump into an update for the CRM. This is actually one that's really, really nice. Obviously, internally, we use a lot of Deluge, so we could kind of already do this. But for the more standard users who are not into writing Deluge, they've updated inside of workflow rules where you can now schedule a call or add a meeting as a default action, kind of similar to how you could add a task previously. This is a really big one, especially for users who do want to get their hands dirty, but might just not want to write in a bunch of deluge code.
What was there before? Because I could have sworn this was there before. Maybe it was just for tasks, no calls or
Yeah, it
meetings.
was just they've always done it for tasks, and I think this is one I think they've been like slowly rolling this out because I feel like I have seen at least the add meeting in a client account
Hmm.
before reading this news article. So this may have already crept into your account, but if not, you're actually able to do it. One thing that is pretty cool is that you can assign like a default host, like the record owner, for example. And if they're unavailable, if you say like, hey, add 3 days and make it at 3 p.m., if they have a conflicting meeting, you can actually tell it to make a task to reschedule, which is pretty cool that they kind of thought that through. Choose your participants based on related records to wherever you're kicking off your workflow. So really nice update. I think this will save some people a lot of time and effort, and hopefully make it so that people don't have to do this with tasks and they can actually use these records if they'd like to. Alrighty. Couple more stories here for today. We do have a quick one. So, as you know, Zoho Books has a lot of regional specific versions of the application. They have like the global version, the US. I think they have one for United Arab Emirates and for EU. So now they have a specific version for Mexico, which makes sense, right? We've seen a lot of growth in the Zoho suite in South America, but obviously accounting rules are a little bit different everywhere. So looks like they have rolled out a specific version for Mexico that includes some e-invoicing compliance regulations that you need in order to do this in Mexico. It's kind of a nice one there, not too much to go in depth on. And then we additionally have, again, not for our US users. This was our second runner up for the show title with a pun on using great here. But they've rolled out for Middle East and Africa an integration for Zoho People and GreytHR. So essentially just lets you run your payroll through it, cut down on some repetitive work. So again, nothing too deep to go into here. I think that Zoho People, one of the biggest challenges with it is that it doesn't really do payroll for you. So being able to plug it into a tool where you can do that, hopefully will let people use people in the Middle East and Africa a little more easily. All righty, now we've gone around the world and we're back to CRM. So here they've got some enhancements for layout rules. We use layout rules a lot to control process, right? Like when deal stage goes to closed won, we require fields A, B, C, and D. In this case, I think if I'm reading this correctly, essentially now changes that are coming via API will also enforce layout rules. Am I reading this correct, Josh?
Yeah, exactly. So now, previously, if you were to create a record, but that record, the information passing in that API, it bypassed layout rules. So you could actually get around some of those required fields that would
Yeah.
be required if you were using a desktop version. So now they're just adding that validation within the API response. So you have to complete those rules or follow those rules when submitting API requests as well, which I think is a huge plus.
Oh yeah, I mean you kind of always want those enforced because the problem is like they use the example if the lead is from USA, then SSN is a mandatory field for social. So if a
Mhm.
lead came in via some form that we didn't have SSN, now the rep tries to work it, it kind of hangs on itself because it now will require it, right? Like the minute you touch the record, it'll realize that that's required. So
I'm
really nice to
assuming
be
this
able to
would be
enforce
the
these.
same for records created through Zoho Forms or Survey.
Mhm.
Those fields would have to be added appropriately to create that record. I'm assuming we haven't tested that yet, so that's certainly one to test.
Got it. See, I guess the only thing here is that if you did have an integration that was running that was ignoring layout rules, it is probably time to deal with that. If it's been something kind of sitting in your system that you just haven't gotten around to, just be aware. I think this is going to push out for everybody. So um, your integrations might start to have some issues if you do have layout rules set up and you don't have the field that you need.
Mhm.
Last one here. This is like a pseudo PSA. I feel like we've had so many articles that say last call to migrate from Docs to Workdrive. Maybe this is the final one. But so they are discontinuing Zoho Docs. They're going to enforce that we migrate over to Zoho Workdrive. Um, it is better than Zoho Docs. You will be happier in Workdrive than you were inside of Docs. But they have updated the end of life date here to the 15th of February in 2023. So again, still got some runway, but really there's no big reason to wait on this. It's a migration that Zoho actually kind of does for you using a migration tool. So jump in there and get this done because you've got about, what would that be, 4 months? 4 months until you're going to get end of life here. Oh no, it'd be 3 months actually.
Yeah, another thing I want to note on that is previously within Zoho projects. So if you are a Zoho projects user, it was using Zoho Docs before. So make sure you make
Mhm.
that migration and set up the new Workdrive extension. So it's kind
Got
of
it.
slid in there. Most people who are using projects just kind of stick with the existing docs, but you will need to make that migration.
Got it. Yeah, it's a good call out. And again, it's one of those things. It's like rip the band-aid off. You're going to be happy you did. Workdrive is a great application. And I think here we are to our last news story. It's a pretty busy week. This is a minor one. In Zoho projects, they've added a context menu, which is basically if you like right click on something, you get a couple quick options that you can do. This is really just they've added a context menu to users and teams. So you can just do a couple more little quick things without having to fully open up the record. Very, very minor update, not going to change anybody's life, but we thought we would just include this in case we've got some projects users out there who are excited for it.
I'm hoping the projects team is using this as a case study to add that right click function to all the other different modules within projects. But yeah,
Mhm.
this it probably won't provide much value at the
Yeah,
moment. But once they do add it to those other modules, it could be pretty cool.
awesome. And I think that wraps it up for our news this week. And we can springboard right on over into our implementation of the week. Alrighty, so this one here is a integration built by Lucas on our team. We've got our new little placard cards here with our beautiful kind of comicized faces. So this is an integration where we built a kind of push to desk flow from CRM over to Zoho Desk for inbound leads. So this solves a very particular and specific issue that can come up anytime you have a form on your website. Um, Basically, an existing customer very well might come back to your website and fill out your contact us form when they need support about the product or service that you provide, right? But on your end, that contact us form is really primarily used to write to CRM and create lead records. So essentially, what our client was looking for here is just a quick and easy way where if a salesperson opens up a lead, right, they see that the description is, hey, I need some help. I need to reset my password, right? They can just click a button and it will push that request over to Zoho Desk. It does do a little bit of logic. So when you press the button, it'll convert the lead over to a contact. It will create a Zoho desk contact with matching information. And then it will write over a desk ticket into Zoho Desk, created underneath that contact, containing all the information that the lead submitted. A couple little logic things here. If you do try to implement this yourself that we didn't explicitly write out, of course, you're going to want to check if that lead already exists as a CRM contact and a desk contact. A lot of the times they're going to, right? So you aren't always going to need to create those records. But again, this just gives you a quick and easy way for a sales rep to go, this is support, this is not a lead. Click one button and it's off their list and over into the hands of your support team. So big shout out for Lucas on this one. I know this is super helpful for the client. Sometimes we do these big, crazy third-party integrations here. This is a lot simpler of an implementation, but it's one that solves a problem that I think a lot of people may have, which is just that you can't force your customer to use your forms correctly. They're going to come in, they're going to use the wrong form sometimes. And this is just a good way to handle that when it does occur.
Good job, Lucas.
Yeah, big shout out for Lucas on this one. And I think if my tabs are ordered correctly, we will jump next into our code share of the week. All right, so over in Club Zenatta here, which is our forum where you can come and ask questions, where we post some code share, and where actually other users are now posting code share as well. You know who you are. Greg posted one here, I think mostly because we were banging our head into a wall on an integration for a little while. And once Greg figured out what exactly we were missing, he thought he would do a public service and just get this out for everybody. So this one is basically a structure where we can map out everything that's going to be needed to make an API call into Workdrive. And Josh, you can probably add a little bit more color on some of the key elements here that you'll need.
Yeah, so most people don't know, but Zoho Workdrive finally released their official API documentation. Previously, it was just hosted on a attachment on some website somewhere, and now they've made it official. But the big thing is for your headers, you have to include a header within your request, which means within your invoke URL, there's a header line, and you basically have to say accept application /vnd.api plus JSON. That has to be included in there for that API to work, or for that request to work. Otherwise, it will just return a null value, and you'll be scratching your head and for what's going on. But that has to be included for all requests. So get, post, patch, delete, and you'll be good to go. So good work, Greg, for outlining this and creating that structure. So anyone can basically copy and paste that into their function to make sure it's formatted properly.
Awesome. And yeah, just our weekly reminder here. Again, if you have not yet signed up for Club Zenatta, this is a great place to jump in and, post any questions you have about Zoho, maybe scrape some free code out of our code share that you'd like to use in your system. If you want to be generous and, flex your Zoho skills, you can come and help us answer any other people's questions as well. Free forum, really all you'll need to do is sign up and you can jump on in here and join the party. But with that, I think we are ready to jump into our read of the week. Alrighty, big shocker here. We're pulling this from HubSpot. I know it's we don't go here too often, but they wrote a good one, so we thought we'd pull it in. So this is 5 blogging trends to leverage in 2023, according to HubSpot leaders. Obviously, in our opinion, HubSpot does content marketing and blogging really, really well. So if you're going to take blogging advice from everybody, this is a good one to listen to. So kind of like 5 key things: build in some custom graphics, right? Don't just make it all text. Any interactive content that you can do, polling, quizzes, things like that. Obviously, making sure that your information is correct and legitimate, right? So give people specific, accurate, and actionable things. Including any original data that you've generated is also a huge one. So if you're able to pull interesting things from Google Trends, mentions, HubSpot does it by just pulling their users' data and looking at, deal closed won and deals created. And then the big one is, figuring out original and useful topics. I think really if you were to sum all of this up into one thing, it's that don't just write fluffy blogs with no meaning to them, right? Obviously, you're going to do everything you can to increase, the capture of a blog. You might give it a snappy title, 5 tips, why should you X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that when someone actually reads it, it's useful and it gives them a reason to come back. I think too here they included, what do they do? They always give these free downloads. So they gave free data report here if you want it on the state of media and content planning for 2022. But yeah, good read from HubSpot, kind of a quick one. And it really can just be summed up by saying, write your blogs for humans, not for the SEI or SEO AI that's reading them.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I think from there, we can jump on into what's new on Zenatta.com. All right, speaking of blogs, we wrote up a blog here on our Zoho Cliq full product tutorial. We actually just recorded and released this one earlier this week on Tuesday. It's about, 45 minutes, 50 minutes or so. But if you are sick of hearing me talk and just want to run through a write-up that basically covers everything that we talked about, we've got that over here on our website. Big shout out to Katie on writing these blogs, new to our marketing team, but it is really, really great, the level of blog writing that we have going now. Harkening back to that HubSpot article, we're always trying to make our content more useful, easier to read, more direct and to the point. So big shout out to her and Wayne for continuously improving this. And we invite you to jump over here. Oh, look at that. So we invite you to jump over here and take a look. This is a good write-up for an application that we use every single day. Alrighty. I think with that, we can go ahead and jump into our pick of the week, which I'm going to let you drive, Josh, because this has always confused me, how to actually use this thing in Zoho Cliq. So maybe you want to give me a run through?
Yeah, so this is one I added to the show today because I use this all the time. Specifically this week, I had a client reach out. They wanted an automation to basically write a Cliq message that's formatted. They didn't ask for it to be formatted, but they basically wanted an automated Cliq message to go out with a button and some information on it. So within this website, it's actually just a public website you can go to. You can actually search Zoho Cliq Message Card Builder in Google, and you'll find this link. We'll also include it in the show notes. But essentially what you can do is pre-format all of the different criteria or different features you'd like to see within a message. And here, if you like, you can add a button. You can add multiple buttons. Within the button, you can actually create set it to call a function. So if click edit there, you can either invoke a URL, invoke a function. There's a few other things you can do in here. So maybe you wanted to open up a form, or maybe you want to trigger a function. And certainly you would be able to add as much information here as you want. And basically what this website does is it helps you format this, the message body as deluge. And then if you go into the deluge section on the tab over on the left, you'll actually be able to copy that whole deluge script and paste that into your function. On the left
here
there.
over on the left-hand side here, under View Deluge.
Yep. And so it's dynamically building out that deluge for you, and then you just copy and paste that into your function and replace the fields you want to actually replace with variables in your function.
Yeah.
So I use this all the time, especially if a client needs a formatted or just any message in Cliq automated. I come to this and just kind of spice it up a bit with some formatting and some extra little bits and bobs. But it's a great little tool, and we use it all the time. Greg actually showed me this, I think, a year or two ago, and we've been using it since. And there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. You can even change. Go ahead.
Said it opens up a lot of doors. Like Greg just used this recently. We have a function where, whenever one of our clients upgrades or downgrades their Zoho license, we get notified. And Greg is actually now rolling all of those up into a table. So we used to get one Cliq message for every upgrade or downgrade. Now every morning we get a beautifully formatted table of all upgrades and downgrades just in one message. So it's not just like buzzing throughout the day. It's really cool. I mean, like you could use this for every day send a list of leads to your sales reps that haven't been touched in 14 days. Obviously depends on your volume, if that would make sense, but tons of use cases for these types of tables with buttons and custom data.
Yeah, and what's great too is really just the building of the deluge script, because APIs certainly exist and you can read through the Cliq documentation to build it out, but it is not intuitive at all. Um, with the way they format their maps and how they have it ordered within the list,
Yeah,
and
it is
it's
maps and maps and maps here. Like you have to wrap up all your data in like so many preceding values here.
yes, yeah, but there's some really cool things, and this just makes it a lot easier to format.
Awesome. So yeah, check out the show notes, as well as should be included in the newsletter if you're subscribed for that. Again, even Josh and Greg, two of the best Zoho developers that I think exist, use this tool because it is such a pain to do this custom. So make sure to just back pocket this one because it will save you a lot of pain and suffering if you ever try to do something in this vein.
Mhm.
And I think with that, we can get on over to our tip of the week. Alrighty, here I made sure to grab a very favorable screen grab here for Wayne. So yeah, Wayne actually chipped in. This is something he recently did for a client, and we realized that we didn't really have a video that walks through how to do it. So this is just a quick video that covers actually a few different topics, from setting up the Zoho form and the form integration, to triggering an email with an email template from CRM when it's submitted. But the big thing that he shows here that we do for people a lot, and I actually got lucky, I kind of grabbed like right at the right spot here. He's showing how to put a button or a link in the email template that would actually bring the sales rep to the lead, right? And this is something you could use in a lot of different forms. You could send someone a Cliq message and use the same link. But here he's showing it in an email template, which is basically just a way where now your sales rep can just click on the email, jump right into the lead, and take whatever action is needed. So it should be a good quick video here. Looks like about 9 minutes, just to run through how to set that up. Then, as always, I will highlight here, I am contractually obligated that please jump over to our YouTube channel here and subscribe if you like what we're doing. Really helps us out and makes sure that our videos land in your inbox. We obsessively try to document and spread as much knowledge as we can on Zoho. So if you are a Zoho nerd like us, this is the place to be, and we invite you to join the community. I think with that, we should be ready to jump on into our Q&A. All right, I actually got all the sections right this time. I think last time I drove it, I flipped one of them, but I actually got them in order.
You're doing
So
great.
first question here from Joe Hopkins. This was on a 2022 webinar that we probably need to re-record. He's asking Zoho Voice versus RingCentral. I see Zoho as a paid phone plan with enterprise plans. Pros and cons of those plans, if we have any. Really, Joe, I mean, so far, we haven't really used Zoho Voice much. The big challenge with it is that it ends up being more expensive than the equivalent plan of RingCentral. And RingCentral just works like a charm across like every Zoho app through PhoneBridge. So right now, I think our advice would still be to stick with RingCentral, because we just haven't really had an opportunity to put voice through its paces. Because at the end of the day, it's just hard for us to recommend that you pay more for something that essentially is the same as a RingCentral license. All right. Next question here from Intel Estate Network Corp. This was on one of our CRM Zen shows, $1 billion, wahahaha, episode 224. So he's asking about the bank feeds, hot topic in the world of Zoho. They are working on these day and night. We're actually helping them beta test a new method that they're looking into, which I don't think I can talk about, but they're hammering this on all different sides of the aisle. I know Brett was telling me that recently the Yodlee feeds are working a lot better. So as much as we can stick it out, I know this is about the highest priority thing that the Zoho Books team is working on. And as we get any updates, we'll be sure to continue to publicize those here on the CRM Zen Show.
Yeah, for our clients now, we're just telling them to do manual imports. Is that correct, Tyler?
I think so. I mean, it depends. It's like bank by bank right now. Like some banks are working great through Yodlee, and it's really not a problem at all. Some smaller banks are still having issues, and they kind of have to like enable them one by one, which is a little bit painful. But yeah, right now you can still do your manual import. And again, Zoho is cranking on this one 24/7. Right. Looks like next question here from John Smith. Looks like he asked it on our campaigns full product tutorial from 2022. First off, thank you for watching the version from this year. So he asked us, can response-based emails be in a thread based on a campaign? Really good question. Basically what he's asking is, I send email number 1, you click a link. I want to send email number 2, but I want it to land in your inbox, kind of like a follow-up to email number 1. We were thinking, I mean, Josh, you've used campaigns a lot. It should go in the same thread if you've got the same subject line, right?
That's what I'm familiar with. As long as it has the exact same subject line and you're sending it from the same, well, I don't even know if it has to be the same sender. I think it just has to be the same subject line. But that might
Mhm.
also be an email preference within your Gmail or Outlook to make sure you are uh, uh, grouping
Threading.
those threading those emails by subject. The
Yeah.
one thing
So,
that I don't know would cause an issue is the sender address for the email and campaigns does kind of mask itself to be an odd email. So that's something we'd have to test to see. But I think if you set the subject line the same, it should work.
yeah, got it. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit dependent on who's receiving the email and what email client they're in as well. But that's your best bet, I think. Josh here asks, how does a multiple choice question in Zoho Forms integrate with Zoho Sign? You were thinking, Josh, it probably comes across as text if you're using the default integration, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I think it would just come in as just a list text or a string value. Hopefully, it removes the brackets and just has commas. But that's my guess is it would just come over as a list.
Got it. All righty, and we have another follower here asking on our Zoho inventory purchasing for 2021 tutorial. How can I make the purchase product the stock or inventory basically by entering the details? They're not affecting inventory and stock. So best person to answer this would actually be Cody or John on our team, but I've looked at their flow chart, so I have a familiarity with this. When you're doing a purchase order, it really depends on like what status the purchase order is in, and that will affect what actually happens to your stock, right? So if you have a confirmed PO, you should be seeing an increase to basically your like committed inbound stock on that item, or not your committed stock, but your available stock. Once you bill the PO, you'll see an increase to your accounting stock. And once you receive the PO, you'll see an increase to your physical stock. But so the trick is really using those other records. You don't want to use a PO just on its own. You always want to make sure you're billing it and receiving it inside of inventory. And then you should see the updates to your stock based on those transactions.
I think this is also dependent on whether or not you're counting your stock based on accounting or physical
Mhm.
stock. So make sure you check the appropriate box there.
Yeah.
And then assuming it's accounting, then I think once you issue the
Bill.
purchase and then the bill would increase stock. Otherwise, if it's physical stock, then you need to receive it.
Receive, yeah. You always want to think about it this way is like if accounting stock is like the flow of money, like a bill and an invoice, and physical stock is like what do I have in my hands, regardless of if I've paid for it or not. And then we've got another question here from Lolo. Is it possible to delete things from the standard template, like the budget section? This is about Zoho projects from our full product tutorial. We don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we can get rid, especially not budget, because a lot of things in projects are built off of that budget field. So I don't
Hmm.
think we're able to disable it.
And there's no layout rules in projects either. So yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's just gonna have to stay.
All right, DJ Noji asked a question here on our Zoho One full product tutorial. I'm a wedding DJ about to open an electrical contracting biz. That's a fun pivot there. And then curious if this could work well for an electrical contractor so I can keep all my info in one spot. We think so. Zoho One is a really flexible suite. The trick is, DJ, if you do try to jump in and start building this out, highly recommend you start with CRM, right? Make sure that you've got a good place to store all your customers, all the contacts. Maybe start playing around with using the deals record for sending some quotes and invoices. But yeah, I mean, we would say Zoho One is a good fit for that. We've got lots of people that do like in-person contracting work through it. FSM or field service management can be a little bit tricky. There's a couple of different ways to solve for that. But anything I think I missed there, Josh?
Not really. We have quite a few AV tech companies that use Zoho One. Multiple
Yeah.
clients of ours are AV tech, and a lot of them use projects as kind of like
Mm.
their task management solution. Or you could also consider a custom creator app to manage field services. But certainly doable. Just make sure you start inside the CRM to capture the customer info.
All right. Adrian here asked on our Zoho One full product overview. A couple gold stars here I didn't give out for watching our new versions. Does Zoho One include Zoho Payroll US version? I do not believe so. And as of right now, payroll is only available in like six to eight states or something like that. So it's kind of on the probably don't use right now list for us. If it is working in the state that all your employees are in, you could take a crack at it. But I don't think right now it's included in Zoho One, unless someone tells me otherwise in chat. Get the shrug from Josh, so I don't think so.
I'm not sure on that one.
Alrighty, chat through here asks on our CRM full product overview from 2022. I'm creating a CRM for a university and I need to add a convert option in my custom module students. I would guess probably converting from students to alumni. Is this doable? And if yes, can you please guide me on this? Yes, this is very doable. You would do it with a custom button in the students module. You would need to write some code and really define like what fields you want to carry over from the students module to wherever you want to convert it. But it is very doable with a button and some code.
Yeah, I would say also if their CRM is only for students and alumni, they could also consider renaming the leads and the contacts module. That might
Mhm.
not work for them, but certainly if that did work, then you would be able to use the
Or even
baked
just
in.
like a status on a contact, like rather
Sure.
than having a full separate module, it could be like prospective student and a lead, and then they convert and you track them as a student and you click the they graduated button somewhere and it kind of like moves them to a different status.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple ways to do it. If you've got a use case where you need it in a different module though, you'll just need a custom button. I've got a question here from Simply Selling. This is on our Zoho Sign how to set up a template tutorial. Interesting thing though, that we're talking in the Zoho Sign video about the document templates. We think that Simply Selling is talking about email templates. They're asking, can't find any option to import a template. Is there any way to do this? No, not importing an email template. You're going to have to recreate those inside of Sign. You should be able, I think, Josh, you can drop HTML into the Zoho Sign templates. So you might be able to lift some HTML and kind of like drop it into Sign and make some tweaks so that it fits with the aspect ratio and everything. But unfortunately, there's no like full import of an email template.
Maybe they're talking about mail merge. If you're talking mail merge, then yes, you can import a document into a mail merge template, and
Yep.
you could also theoretically send that mail merge template as an HTML email, um, depending on kind of your needs there. But unfortunately, you cannot import email templates into the CRM.
Yeah. All right, couple questions here from Club Zenatta. Everett asks, is it possible to send a form through Cliq? For example, 3 questions that are sent to job supervisors at 1 p.m. every day. Basically, it's trying to make it easier for a field employee to check a couple yes/no questions. I think we were kind of talking about this. Like, you could probably get there with like a poll through Zoho Cliq or something like that, but depending on what you really need out of the form, you could always send like a Zoho form link as well automatically. But you had a couple thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I guess depending on what those questions are, you could either do buttons within using the message card builder that we talked about earlier. Maybe it's just yes, and you just click a few buttons, or you could click a button and that opens up a Zoho form. The other option is there is polls within Cliq that you can generate. I don't know if you can do those via API, so that's something we'd have to look
Mm,
into if you can actually trigger a poll using an API request. But that might be possible as well.
got it.
Yeah, not too sure.
We got a question here from Mike. This is a long one, so I will kind of summarize it. Essentially, running a construction equipment broker business and trying to figure out if Zoho will work to track orders, right? So, in brief, right, we place an order, needs to be approved. We send them a quote, right, and a confirmation. And then looking to, once that quote is confirmed, basically generate like a vendor order, then the billing of the customer and the vendor payments. You can definitely do it, Mike. You could do this natively in CRM. You might want to look at doing it with like books inventory for managing the vendor side of things. It might be a little bit smoother. But you can surely build all of that out. What I would think though is you probably want to use your CRM for like your deal flow and your selling, and then use like books, estimates, sales orders, invoices. I really just say that because if you're going to go down the route and build out like a really good sales and purchasing flow, it might as well be in your accounting tool so that you kind of get your inventory tracking and everything baked in. So yeah, I would take a look at CRM for pieces of this. But a lot of that like quote, order, purchase flow would probably work best in like books and inventory.
And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us, and then we can also walk you through a consultation as well.
Alrighty, Robert McBain, also on Club Zen, asked, yesterday I had an inactive user on my Zoho One account. Sent a note that there was a successful login sent to him, 3 successful logins to Vault. It's actually interesting, Josh. I saw a post in Partner Connect of a partner seeing the same exact thing. And do you think you know what's going on with this? You said earlier, or no?
I don't know, but I think the easiest solution would just be to deactivate the user within Gmail. Just stop it at
Mm,
the pretty much their email address. If you disable the email, then there's no way they would have access within that email to get into Vault or any other Zoho app. So make sure you
got it.
deactivate them from Zoho One, and then of course their email address. You don't have to delete them. If you deactivate their email, then there's no way they would have access to log in. That's my thought. That might be wrong, but I think we've never run into that issue before.
Yeah.
So, what are your
Yeah, maybe
thoughts?
maybe Robert, I'll follow up on Club Zen on this one because it's a thread going on in a partner conversation right now that I think Zoho is looking into because you're not the only one seeing this, and we know that it's not that user logging in. What I'm almost thinking, Josh, is if someone had like the Vault Chrome extension plugged in and it's like cache their credentials or something, and like when they open up
True.
their browser, it's like pinging it, or it's something like that. From what I'm seeing so far, though, Robert, I don't think it's much of a security concern if it's a past employee. But I will follow up with you once we get more info on that. Alrighty, Aram here asked, we have a Shopify store looking to do more email marketing, things like abandoned browser and checkouts. They've got it set up on campaigns, working well. But they're asking, should I be thinking about moving this over to marketing automation? No, not particularly. I would stick with campaigns for now. It's still in like a weird flux state. They are like still working on rolling out that alleged V2. But what we've been told is that once they do roll out the new marketing automation, you'll be able to basically roll your campaigns into that. So I don't think there's any big need to change it right now before they've really finalized that product.
I'm really looking forward for them to really define that because it's so nebulous as far as what that app is going to do.
Yep. Alrighty, we got one here from Funny Business Agency. This is actually a live chat question. Do people, or for people that are using Office 365, are we using email relay to improve deliverability, or is that not what it's for? So email relay, we don't have a lot of people using it. Funny Business. Basically, it's like rather than using an IMAP, Josh, it's like a lightweight API integration between your mail server and Zoho. It may help improve deliverability because I think the main difference is that when you use an IMAP, you're sending it from Zoho's mail servers using like an authenticated usage of your domain. Whereas when you're using an email relay, you're actually pinging it to your actual 365 server and it's sending from there. So I would say, honestly, Funny Business, I would set it up as an IMAP first. And if you're having deliverability issues, consider going the route of email relay. But I don't think it's not super necessary for most users, as deliverability from CRM is not a big problem.
You kept saying funny business, and I thought you were just including that in your explanation, but that's actually the name of their agency. So wonderful. Funny business.
Alrighty. And I think with that, that should wrap up the tail end of the show. Thanks for joining, Josh. I always appreciate you jumping on. I think our plan is to feature you a little bit more here as some of these creator stories pop up. So we might be seeing more of Josh's bright and smiling face. As always, if you do want to get in touch with Brett, myself, maybe Josh, if you're lucky, head over to Zenatta.com and drop us a line. And as well, we do want to remind you, if you'd like to participate in our online community and ask any questions or write any free code for others to use, jump over to club.zenatta.com. We'd love to see you there.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we've discussed today. We'd love to see you on our next show next week. We are going to be hosting it on Wednesday due to Thanksgiving. So make sure you join in. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. This song to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
All of our clients love this song too. It's great.
Thanks, everybody.